along with my debonair and oh so erudite co-host Curtis C.S. Bennett with the website of theoriginalradicals.com. Curtis, good afternoon, and thank God it's Friday.
Yeah, good afternoon, Andy. I'm still excited about all this excitement around Trump's press conference yesterday. It seems that the media was put in its place and unabashedly, So I'm happy we finally got a president that know how to stand up against these guys.
Oh, if that ain't the truth, that I don't know what is. I got to apologize. My chat room keeps on crashing on my end. So if you guys see me going up and down the chat room, thank you, Blog Talk Radio, for messing us up once again. But the chat room is up in Blog Talk Radio. I want to welcome everyone that's in there and those that are listening in the studio on your smart devices. We've got ourselves a really great show. We've got Dan Abbott, the teeth in backwards. One of these days, I'm going to get the right set of dentures in my mouth. Really? Dan Adamini will be joining us the first half of the show. And then we're going to have Ryno DeCicco will be joining us. Two great radio hosts will be joining us. Lots to talk about. So much is happening. Matter of fact, President Trump is in my neck of the woods, just a mere 45 minutes north of me in North Charleston at the Boeing plant. He just did an excellent speech, and it's great. He is bringing jobs to America. Actually, at the Boeing plant was a plant that former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley brought here, and it's expanding, and it's bringing jobs, and he's going to build on that. He's got a great basis, so we'll see what happens in the next 4 years. People are complaining that he's already out there campaigning, but hey, the day after Obama got in office, he was out there campaigning. It took him 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and never stopped. Never stopped. Oh my! All right, we've got so much to talk about, Curtis. But enough of that. Enough of that. Again, thank you everyone that's up in the chat room and that's listening on your smart devices. Everyone that listens to the show knows that we start off each and every show with a dedication to a fallen hero. And once again, a fellow first responder, fellow law enforcement officer has fallen in the line of duty. Today's show is dedicated to police officer Reginald Jake Gutierrez of Tacoma Police Department in Washington. His end of watch was November 30th of 2016. And this is from the Tacoma Weekly by Stephen Duckelberger. The family of Tacoma police officer Reginald Jake Gutierrez appreciates the flow of support from around the world following his murder. His funeral was on December 9th at the Tacoma Dome, where the public was welcomed to further pay their respects. Quote, "We would like to personally thank the city of Tacoma for the outpouring of love that has been shown for my brother," wrote Antoinette Gutierrez Nevada in a statement. "We are humbled by the amount of support he has received from the community and the love we have received from his family in blue. It is quite evident that he has had a tremendous impact on the community. Although we cannot turn back the clock, I hope everyone can find comfort in the fact that my brother loved his job. He ran toward danger while others ran away. He was my hero before this happened and will be a hero forever in this community. With a heavy heart, my family would personally like to say thank you." Gutierrez, a 17-year veteran of the department, was killed in the line of duty on November 30th. He was only 45 years old and left behind a fiancé and 3 children. Gutierrez was responding to a domestic violence call at a house along the 400 block of East 52nd Street. Bruce Randall Johnson II, 38, reportedly shot Gutierrez during the incident and then barricaded himself in the house while other officers rescued Gutierrez, who was rushed to Tacoma General Hospital for emergency surgery. He later died of his wounds. Johnson used his own children as human shields during an 11-hour standoff before a Pierce County Sheriff's deputy shot him while he passed in front of an upstairs window. Johnson's 2 children, 6 and 8, were not injured and were removed from the house. Johnson has been described as a troubled man who had just been fired from his job at a downtown barbershop and experiencing mounting family troubles. Tacomans responded to Gutierrez's shooting death with 2 candlelight vigils in the East Side neighborhood the 45-year-old officer patrolled. Both vigils, one at the Tacoma police substation where he worked and at a nearby Sheridan Elementary, drew hundreds of mourners. More mourners then lined the city streets to pay their respect when members of law enforcement agencies and fire departments motorcaded through the city to escort Gutierrez from the Pierce County Medical Examiner's office to the funeral home. And this is from KRO 7 News. Citizens placed their hands over their hearts during Gutierrez's 9-minute-long procession from the hospital to the medical examiner. In addition to an outpouring of support in social media, people are paying respects by stopping by the Tacoma Police Headquarters and leaving flowers and mementos to honor him. Gutierrez was a model police officer with children and a fiancée. Tacoma Chief Don Ramsdale said, "I had the privilege to work around Gutierrez his entire career. He is a model police officer. He's highly dedicated to his profession. He's highly dedicated to his community. And he demonstrated that every day that he came to work." Ramsdale said a fund for Gutierrez's family was established and flags flew at half-staff. Gutierrez's partner was given leave after the shooting. Tacoma police spokeswoman Loretta Cool said, "We've suffered a great loss, and I think the community has suffered a great loss. And I don't know how to put that into words other than to say that everyone here appreciates the kind thoughts and the prayers that are going out to us. Everyone on our police department knows everyone. And yes, everybody will feel it," Cool said. In an emotional gathering, dozens of people came together for a vigil to honor Gutierrez. Today's show is dedicated to Police Officer Reginald Jake Gutierrez of Tacoma Police Department in Washington, whose end of watch was Wednesday, November 30th of this past year. It is also dedicated to all the brave men and women out there that serve as first responders, be they police officers, firefighters, EMTs. And it's also dedicated to the brave men and women that serve in our military from the birth of this great nation to today and into tomorrow. And we dedicate this song, Last Call, by Dave Bray. God bless them all.
The man that she's gonna tell her I'll be waiting where the winter meets the fall. This is my last call. Tell my children that I love them. Oh yeah, but daddy always loved them so. Tell them to hold the mother's side and to never let it go. Tell them I'll always be watching, looking over them through it all. This is my last call. Tell them to fight for me. Do what's right for me. Choose the light for me. But don't ever forget me. Tell them I'll always be watching, and I'll be there when they fall. This is my last call. Those who serve beside me and who held that thin blue line, stand tall, stand strong, hold your head up high. I'm sorry I let you down today, but please know I gave my all. This is my last call.
Keeping with the traditions of the great American Southwest, when heroes were needed, they appeared. People who would mete out truth and justice and defend the weak. People like Vito and Al, Kel, Paul, Annie, LaShonda and Bill, Gotti and Dee, Chuck, David, Kath, Foster and Mike. The modern-day heroes of the Internet airwaves and the hosts of the magnificent 7 days of programming you can listen to each week right here on AmericanPatriotRadio.com.
All right, and we're back. You're here listening to Southern Sense here on Blog Talk Radio, American Patriot Radio, SHR Media, High Plains Media, Daily News, Kinetic Hi-Fi, the Fix FM out of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm your hostess with the mostest, the radio chick Annie, along with Curtis C.S. Bennett. Curtis, we got ourselves a great show lined up and a great guest on the line. Are we ready to rock and roll and cause some trouble out there?
Yes, we are.
Right. Let's bring on the bad boy, the guy that's in the doghouse and looking for a way out. Welcome back, Dan Abney. Dan, why is it I always screw up your last name? I mean, I'm half Italian.
It happens a lot of times. Ever since I was a kid. I mean, the name's always been poorly pronounced, but it's Adamini, and I forgive you.
Well, I grew up, and every time someone asks me my mother's maiden name, I have no problem saying it, Della Vecchia. I mean, if I can say Della Vecchia, how come I can't say Adamini?
Oh, that's one I don't think I can answer for you.
Well, let's get this out in front, because we'll get the elephant out of the room first. You are in one hellacious doghouse right now. You did an oops, and had this oops been done by someone on the left, oh, wait a minute, yes, it has been done by people on the left, but you got excoriated and you got yanked off the air. You've had to shut down your social media websites. You are such a bad boy. What did you do?
Well, I was glad I could take Donald Trump off the front pages for at least a week or so.
But, what you did was you put up a tweet and you put something up on the Facebook page about the Berkeley riots. And, well, it may not have been the wisest thing you did, but there was no harm or intent meant. But you're paying a heavy penalty for that.
Yeah, it's been it was a very well coordinated attack, and I guess if there is one thing that the left does very well, it is coordinate attacks against other people. It blew up. I mean, I've never seen such a firestorm. I always thought if people ever noticed me, it would be for something good I did, not for something stupid I did. But I guess there's still time for that, I hope.
Well, you can't fix stupid at times, but you're trying the best.
Yeah.
But
the hatred and the anger out there is just it is just amazing, the level. I mean, the calls to not only my sponsors and the show, but my place of employment, and I mean all across the country. It's actually locally that there's been very little blowback because people know me in the community, and the comments have been basically, God, you should have said it better, or shouldn't have said it at all, and that is all true. But the hatred and the anger seems to be coming from a very well organized group of people, really across the country. It's got most of the letters and calls are coming from Ohio and California and Florida and New York, and it's been a very interesting couple of weeks.
And you actually went in public and apologized. You went on other media outlets and said, "Hey, listen, what I did was stupid. There was no malice intended. It was just a little satire that just got blown up the wrong way."
Well, and actually, if I had said that, hey, I was trying to push the envelope, that things might have settled down, but I was trying to actually clarify that, what I was referring to, of course, the violence in Berkeley, was that this reminds me a lot of what we were seeing in the 60s, and I fear that we're going to see a similar end if the protesters can't get under control, because everybody remembers the tragedy, nobody remembers the violence leading up to it. And I was trying to, and again, maybe foolishly, make a comparison, but the warning was that I think we're headed to, and I still believe we are headed to a tragic end if we don't get a handle on the violence.
Well, that is the truth. You had Madonna that said that, once Trump was inaugurated, that she contemplated bombing the White House. Now, that is a direct statement saying that she was going to advocate for violence. She was actually contemplating doing an act of violence. And yet she gets, a little pat on the wrist. It's like, you shouldn't have said that. You got Michael Moore out there that said he believes he's a Muslim. Really? Okay. I'd like to see him on his knees with his butt up in the air praying to Allah. I don't think he'd be...
I'm not sure I'd want to see that, actually.
No, I actually think about that. That's not a plumber's crack. That is the Grand Canyon.
Yeah. Well, I guess the difference really is, I use this kind of sarcastically and kind of truthfully, that the difference really is, the people on the left, they don't really claim to be good people, so they can get away with that stuff. We claim to be better, so we are held to a higher standard, and maybe we should be. But but the violence, there are still some people. Initially, people believing that I was actually calling for the killing of innocent protesters or peaceful protesters, which, of course, I don't know how you can, take that from the Post. No matter how badly I worded it, it wasn't that. But there are still people, even after the explanation, I still get letters from folks saying, how dare you call for the killing of peaceful protesters? It's a constitutional right. And he said, well, I wasn't even calling for the death of the violent rioters. So where do you get that from? But it was clearly talking about the violent rioters.
And no one, only one person got arrested in that protest. Only one person. And can I think of a single person that was arrested in the Tea Party rally? Oh, wait. It was a liberal who
they were all
bit.
Peaceful.
But it was one person was arrested. It was a liberal who bit a Tea Party person that got arrested for the assault. So it wasn't even a Tea Party person or conservative or Republican or even an independent. It was a liberal that was fighting a Tea Party person's
so if
right.
I'm guilty of anything, it's probably forgetting the fact that there is the huge double standard, and even if my intentions were good, which they were, knowing that even if I had said it properly, it would have been taken out of context. So foolish to even try to make people think about that in the first place. Apparently,
yeah, that is true. No, I can think of another. That's right. No arrests were made when Kevin Gaffney was attacked when he was selling the Gadsden flags. If you remember that. SIU union members attacked him, beat him up. Matter of fact, I had the pleasure of meeting Kevin Gaffney a number of years ago, and he is one of the sweetest and nicest people you ever want to meet. He's such a gentle soul, and he didn't deserve to be gang attacked by SIU union members.
Yeah, nobody deserves to be attacked, and I've had several people call, and actually I have reached out. Anybody who wasn't threatening me, and of course that is, there have been a lot of those as well. But I have actually reached out, returned phone calls, returned emails, and they don't always end as well as I hope, but many of them do. But the simple thing is, so people say there's no cause for violence, and they say, well, what happens if you were that poor innocent guy on the street that was getting beaten? If you were that guy getting beaten, I think you would probably know that talking to this guy and say, hey, well, can't we talk this out, is not going to work. You need a police officer there or somebody there to stop the guy who's committing the violence.
Or you just need an honest citizen to step up to the plate and say, hey, listen, I'm going to help defend this innocent individual. We have that ability as a Good Samaritan. Why Good Samaritans are not stepping forward, I guess they're afraid of stepping into the limelight and becoming the target also. But that's not what a good Christian does. You step up to defend the helpless.
And I would hope that I would have the courage to do that. I've never been in that situation, fortunately, where I needed to, and I would hope that I would have the courage to step in when this guy's being beaten and try to stop. I would hope and pray that I would have the courage to be that guy. But it's easy to say I would, but until I'm in that situation, I hope if I am ever faced with that, I will be able to do that right thing, which I do believe we are all called to do.
Yeah, and it's funny, though, a lot of the people that were attacking you hid behind disguises, behind screen names, anonymous names. Very few will come forward and tell you their actual name or, where they are. They do it as a sneak attack.
And of course, that is a common tactic, and that anonymity. And one of the things, even with Facebook, if you're using a real name or a fake name, there's a certain power that people feel behind there, especially when they know they can't be traced if they're using a fake name. And although I've turned over the real threats to the authorities, and whether or not these people are called to task for their violent threats remains to be seen. But the simple fact is, Facebook has become something. Really, I don't believe it was intended to be. It's become a haven for the haters and the most, wretched of society to fight with each other. And sadly, I became part of that. I tried to engage people and try to show them a better way or get them thinking. I became part of that too. And I've told folks, I'm back on Facebook now. I've deleted a whole bunch of people, but, I never thought I'd long for the days where we're looking at pictures of what people are eating for dinner.
That's one of the reasons why I don't put too much personal stuff up on Facebook. I keep it for the show. I just try to limit my interaction on the social medias, even though that now is the new media. It's replacing mainstream, or should I say lamestream media. And listen, you're still up doing your videos and songs, and I want to send this out to all the snowflakes out there that are just, so frightened to come forward and be honest about who they really are. So this is your piece called Liberal Snowflakes. Let's get this up on here on the air.
Here come the liberal snowflakes, look at 'em marching round, shouting and carrying their picket signs, swarming through the town. Say the liberal snowflakes protesting night and day, hating those who don't agree with them when they don't get their way. When they want to hold a protest, they call George Soros, he will pay. Watch them on TV, stupidity on display. Wave to the liberal snowflakes as they go walking by. If you don't, their feelings might get hurt and they may start to cry. Talk to the liberal snowflakes, but be careful what you say. If you try to educate them, they scream or run away. Lots of liberal snowflakes, fragile as they can be, hiding in their safe spaces from those who aren't PC.
I like that last bit. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, maybe not the best musical quality I've put out, but the message is certainly there.
But it is true. Facebook is becoming, as Moving in the chat room says, is becoming dangerous. People put stuff up there. It may be innocent or may not be, but there's some strange people out there, and you've got the power of anonymity. Boy, am I not able to speak today?
It's just anything that starts with A today, apparently.
But here they are. They're thinking that they're anonymous, so they can put anything out there. You've got ISIS up on Facebook for crying out loud, recruiting people. Facebook, and they put up all this fake news. Remember the whole big to-do about fake news? If you ever open a Facebook page, if you look at the right-hand side, I got these things that keep popping up that Goldie Hawn is dead. She's far from dead, please. There's these fake news articles that show up on Facebook, and yet Facebook is going to be cleaning up their act and trying to prevent misinformation from going out. Really? Really? They're making money hand over fist, preying on stupidity.
Yeah, and of course, we've got nuts on the right as well, but I don't think we have nearly as many. And, and I've warned people for years, say, if you get something, even if you think it might be true, check it out before you send it on, because we do need to be, better and smarter than our opponents on the left, who just keep throwing stuff in the hopes that eventually people just get worn down. And I understand that being worn down. I mean, glutton for punishment that I am. I mean, I'm still in the fight, but I understand why people quit.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
Hey,
now, what's?
Dan.
Go ahead, Curtis.
Dan, this is Curtis. I was just wondering, for the sake of some of our viewers, listening audience who were not alive back in 1970, could you tell them pretty much what happened at Kent State?
Well, yes. Of course, during the Vietnam War, there were a lot of protests, and many of them were peaceful. Sadly, many of them were not. But on the days leading up to the tragedy at Kent State, 2 days prior, of course, the students were protesting because of the expansion of the war into Cambodia. And, of course, the college students across the country were up in arms about that. And, again, peaceful protest is what this country is based on. But 2 days before, they had burned down the ROTC building. And I always encourage people, you have to dig for these facts. And I had put a post of the actual radio and police reports of those days, which is a more detailed read than what you get in the summaries of most people. But the ROTC building was burned down. Vendors and store owners in the city were threatened if they didn't put anti-war signs in the window that there was going to be a price to pay. So there was a reason the National Guard was brought in. I mean, rocks were being thrown at police officers and the National Guard. The one day before, very similar events, people were walking around the rubble of the ROTC building, but again, the confrontations between police officers and National Guard and the students were all quite violent. And then the day of the tragedy, sadly, the people who were killed were innocent bystanders, and that is one of the things I was, alluding to too. The people who are causing the violence are generally not the people who end up paying the price for it. The innocent bystanders always pay, and I fear we are seeing that again. But there were reports that there were shots fired. I don't believe that was ever proven, but certainly the National Guard believed that they were in danger. Somebody started shooting, and then, of course, everybody started shooting, and 4 innocent people lay dead at the end. So it was a tragedy, but it was a very avoidable tragedy.
That is the truth on that one. And you were trying to say, hey, listen, this might possibly happen again. You were trying to actually warn people, hey, listen, let's tone it back. Let's get a civil dialogue going instead of this violence. There is no need for violence at any point by either side. If you attack...
And I fear it might be unavoidable. I mean, I would love to see it avoided, but sadly, the only people who can control this are the people who are committing the violence in the first place. And ultimately, if they can't control themselves, I fear that it is going to come down to a confrontation again. And, we need to stop the violence before we have a tragedy, not after.
Yeah, we do. Now, there's a lively conversation going on in the chat room, just to let you know, because they're talking about, President Obama is no longer in the White House. Thank God, no more communists in the White House. But he is still in D.C., just blocks away from the White House, and he's like a spider in the midst of a web, and he's pulling a lot of strings. And I'm pretty sure that it's his people in the White House that are leaking a lot of this information coming out from the White House. Because Trump, when he went in, did not completely clean house. He didn't say, bye, anyone that worked under Obama, you're gone. He tried to make it a smooth, easy transition, saying these people are already in place. They know what their jobs are. So I'll slowly start to move my people in and coordinate with them. He was doing a generous and good thing, trying to build a bridge. But we're seeing the Obamaites in there, working against him.
See, and that leads us to the motivations of people, and you see it on Facebook, and when you have coffee with people around town, there are some people who are just more interested in making the people pay that they don't like than they are in actually being productive and moving forward. And when your main motivation is, how can I hurt this person, then all of a sudden honesty and integrity no longer seems to matter, because your only goal is to see how much damage you can do. And it saddens me that we are actually seeing the results of that right now.
All right, we've got a caller in on the line. Let me bring this individual in. Happens to be a friend of the show as well as a former co-host of mine, Cool Mike. Cool Mike, good afternoon. How are you today?
Good afternoon, Curtis and Annie. I am doing well, and to your guest. Just a quick comment. Tiller, as soon as he was sworn in, when he walked in the State Department, basically he's been cleaning house since he walked in the building. He's been terminating virtually everybody, and it continues today from what the news is, from what I'm reading in the news. If your guest doesn't mind me asking, what is it he said that was causing so much controversy? I'm sorry if you've already said it. I had to run into the store real quick, and I missed some of the opening, some of the show from between now and then.
The comments that got most people riled up were, again, say, is it time for another Kent State? And that was, and actually, it was. I told people I've made a few mistakes. First of all, I was trying to do it in Facebook in the first place, the 144 characters on Twitter, but time for another Kent State almost implies that I'm encouraging that we have another Kent State, and people took it that way. One of the comments on the tweet, which was probably the most egregious, was, one bullet stops a lot of thuggery, and of course, I was alluding to the fact that I was presuming that people understood that the violence is going to beget more violence, and of course, without that context, it sounds, again, like I'm encouraging the police to start shooting, the violent protesters. Certainly not peaceful ones. So those were the two comments that actually encouraged most of the outrage.
I think violence is going to be unavoidable. I think clearly you have the powers that be, whether it's the former president and Soros and many others that are looking to make martyrs of some people. And I think these people with a cause will do whatever they have to do. And many people feel that martyrdom, we look at them, certain terrorists, and we call them, radical or whatever. But I mean, some of these people, I mean, this is the way they want to go, and they will not stop for their cause. If you really look at the movements, whether it was the Bolshevik movement or whatever communist movement, I mean, these people with pleasure kind of, gave up their life for the cause of the communists or whatever it may be. Sadly, this is what they do, and you see the president getting involved, Annie, as you had just mentioned. I don't think it's unavoidable, sadly, because this is what their goal is.
And that actually really sums up what I was trying to say. And again, admittedly, I'm not sure if it could have been done more eloquently in that format, in the short form, but that was really the point. I don't think it's avoidable. I pray it's avoidable, but I think that we are on a path towards a similar horrible event because there are people, as you said, that don't really care what the result is they're looking for that anarchy. They're looking to cause the problems. And those are the people we need to stop because we are headed, I believe, towards a really bad end.
It's sad because people are afraid to put a Trump bumper sticker on their car for fear of the car being vandalized. You had the one incident where, because a guy looked like he voted for Trump, was pulled out of his car and brutally beaten. Just for the thought that maybe he might have voted for Trump is enough to physically assault a person and hurt them.
From the pacifists and the people who are tolerant, supposedly.
Exactly.
Intolerant, right.
But I got to tell you, Dan, that Cool Mike happens to be a fellow missionite with you. He's over in Grand Rapids. And, Mike, you're out there campaigning for your city council?
Well, yeah, right now I'm in the process. They passed the bill on Monday or Tuesday, and I'm not sure where your guest is from, but to eliminate the Michigan... Okay, you're from Marquette. You got a great state representative, and I think it's Scott Dianda. But they passed a bill to... I love bringing up Rick Schneider to you, Annie, because you used to love this guy, and I tried to educate you liberal Republicans on this. But anyway, to get rid of the Michigan income tax. And is Schneider up in arms? He's in a tizzy over the elimination, talking about babies crying at night with no milk and all kinds of bullshit. I'm just thinking to myself. And a prop is in one of his tours where he was going radio station to radio station yesterday morning. He singled out, Annie, the Grand Rapids Taxpayers Association. So there you go. That's what I'm doing today, actually. I'm going to start the city council campaign probably around Memorial Day. It's just way too soon. People, I mean, with everything that's going on in the federal government right now, knocking on someone's door saying you're running for city council is going to get the door slammed in your face. I get those without politicking.
Well, you know... because we recently had a change of governors here in South Carolina because Nikki Haley is now ambassador to the UN and Henry McMaster's got elevated from lieutenant governor to governor. And here in South Carolina last year, we successfully fought against a gas sales tax increase. And now that Nikki Haley is out of the governor's chair, they figured they're going to try to bring it back up again. And they feel they have enough votes in the House and the Senate because there's not too many people out there talking about it. Well, guess what? Our new governor, Henry McMaster, said it is a tool of last resort. In other words, if you bring it up to my desk, I'm not going to sign this thing. So there is hope for conservatism returning to this nation. There is hope out there, guys. Man.
I believe some of the nastiness and some of the nuttiness we're seeing is actually starting to wake up some of the people who are on that the 10 o'clock till noon area of the left that you can reason with and have common sense, but might just disagree on tactics. I believe they're starting to see some of the craziness that's going on from their comrades and are hopefully going to start distancing themselves, just like people on the right have always tried to distance themselves from the nuts on our side. I think it took something like this to wake them up, and hopefully they do wake up.
You know, what I find amazing is, because I'm the head of my local Tea Party, one of the founders, I think I'm the last one standing of the founders of our local Tea Party, and I find a lot of former liberals are now coming to our meetings going, you know, this is not the Democratic Party that I thought I was voting for. There are a lot of people waking up, and they're facing the real reality of what the left has become, what they've forced the Democratic Party to become. You know, not what the party of Kennedy. It's more of the party of Johnson. Let's make everyone a slave to the state.
I think everybody has their limit where they finally say, okay, I'm willing to take this step, even though I don't completely agree. And it reaches a point where you say, okay, I've sacrificed so much of my core beliefs to try to stay loyal to these guys, but I just can't go any further, and they need to start coming back. And I do believe we're starting to see that. True.
You know, you have someone like Robert Reich, if everyone remembers him from the Clinton administration, when he wrote, he was on CNN, if I could get this straight, and he was blaming everything that was happening over at Berkeley on the right, saying that the far right are the people that staged this. It was an actual plan and plot to make us look bad. Really? Isn't that a little extreme there, Dan?
It is, and the problem is there are people who are dim-witted enough to actually believe that stuff. And that's why it perpetuates. It's because, you know, if you tried to say something like that, you would have been laughed off the stage at some point. But now we've got so many people who are willing to believe based on the ideology of the person saying it. Whether it's true or not doesn't really matter as much as it fits the narrative they're trying to believe.
It's really strange, because when I heard him saying that and blaming everything that was happening, saying that everything that has occurred, all those riots and protests and Occupy movement, going all the way back to the first George Bush, blame it all on the right as planning this and staging this, completely ignoring the fact that you can actually trace a lot of these paid protesters directly back to George Soros.
And what's more frustrating than that, or as frustrating, is the fact that once the truth comes out, oh, well, that's old news, that's a story, we're not interested in that anymore. The truth always comes out eventually, and it always seems to come out that, okay, these guys on the left lied about what they were trying to, you know, the point they're trying to make, but nobody seems to care anymore. So honesty really has taken a back seat, and I think we're going to pay a price for that as well.
Well, that brings me up to...
Well, you know something?
Go ahead, Curtis.
You know something? Trump was right. He said that today's headlines would be more fake news, and sure enough, they're putting out that Trump said he would get 100,000 National Guard troops and go round up illegals and kick them out the country. Now, this is from some very prominent news sources and websites saying this, and it's all false. You know, and I just think it's another demonstration of how it doesn't matter to the left what they put out, as long as they keep people on their side agitated.
And sadly, I believe you're absolutely right about that.
You know, the funny part is that, you know, when you look at who he's rounding up, 75% of them have been convicted of a crime. Convicted, not just accused of, but convicted of a crime, 75%. He's going after the drug dealers. He's going after the murderers. He's going after the rapists. He's going after the worst of the worst. So if you got a 75% decrease in crime rates in some of those neighborhoods, that's a good thing. But he's also told ICE that if you do come across a minor, you know, let's put that person to the back of the enforcement line. We'll look at the DECA candidates later on. They're not a priority. Go after the bad guys. They're not sweeping up everyone. Matter of fact, they went into one apartment building and they rounded up a bunch of criminals. And there was a woman there who happens to be an illegal immigrant with a baby. And they left her alone. That's not being reported. No. But the fear-mongering is what is being reported.
What we all have to remember is when these people have their cause, no matter what it is, in the end, what's the famous saying? The ends justify the means. It doesn't matter when you have a cause. It's just irrelevant. Something along what Curtis just said. It doesn't matter. The ultimate goal is to conquer or whatever their goal is. So it just doesn't matter what happens in between.
Well, Dan, these are
and
all...
this is coming from the people who used to believe just the opposite. Remember, these are the people who supposedly, again, the old traditional liberal probably has more in common with the modern-day libertarian and conservative than they do with the new liberals. Because, again, how you reach that end is equally as important. And that seems to have been lost on our friends on the left now.
If you look at the Democratic Party as a whole, the very good, tolerant, minority-loving, blah, blah, blah. Who holds all the power in the Democratic Party? Whites. And limousine liberals, the ivory tower academics. Who controls everything? They do. So everything they say from the very beginning is a lie. And it's just a domino effect. And anyone they can take down in the process, like yourself or whomever, this is how they do it. This is how they do.
Yeah, we're just I'm just another notch in their belt, and that's actually fine. I sacrificed a very low-level volunteer position, and they claim that as an enormous victory. And of course, more power to you. But I think more and more people, at least locally, for almost an entire week now, I've had no negative comments and only positive, and that's very encouraging because I think the firestorm, fortunately, the attention span of these people is short enough that they can be very violent and very vocal, but they can only do it for a short period of time, thank goodness.
Well, they're all liberal bullies, which brings me up to another one of your parodies. Let me see if I can get this one keyed up and played up here on you. Come on, play.
Watch out now. Here come the bullies. Those liberal bullies. Gotta watch out for them liberal bullies, man. They're everywhere. If you try talking near a Democrat, you better get ready to be attacked by the bullies. Liberal bullies. Liberal bullies, liberal bullies, liberal bullies. They like to say that they are tolerant, but if you dare to voice dissent, you'll be bullied by liberal bullies. Liberal bullies, liberal bullies. Liberal bullies. Here they come now. Watch out. These liberal bullies are everywhere. The Democrats say they want speech that's free, but not for people who might disagree, 'cause they're bullies. Liberal bullies. Liberal bullies, liberal bullies, liberal bullies. Liberal race baiters and the glibbits too. If you don't cave in, they're gonna torment you 'cause they're bullies. Liberal bullies. Liberal bullies. Liberal bullies. Liberal bullies. Here they come again. Watch out, man. The liberal bullies. If you have values and you have a job, you're gonna be a target of the liberal mob, 'cause they're bullies. Liberal 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 bullies.
Now, I got a question for you. When you do these tracks, do you do all the music and everything yourself, or do you have someone working with you?
No, I'm a small little one-man shop, and you can probably tell I've had many people say, "Well, maybe you should find somebody who could actually sing on there." And they say, "Well, I can't disagree with that, but I do it all myself. All the instruments, all the voices are always me."
Well, we got a couple of comments in the chat room. One guy moving forward said, "Another clean and spirited jingle. Why can't they laugh it off?" And Boyd wrote,
well, yeah.
"A sense of humor is not PC."
Well, one of the best things I could do, people, they say success is the best revenge. If I tell people if they subscribe to the YouTube channel, I posted a new song on there this morning. That way, if you subscribe, you'll get it in your email, and every time something new is posted, we've got 177 songs in there now out of the 300 from the show. As I say, they're not all gems, but some of them really make me smile.
Now, what's going on with your radio show? You did have the one In the Right Mind. Are you bringing it back, or are you just waiting for things to die down? What's going on with it?
That's the intention. We were off last week, and we're off tomorrow. It's just a weekly show. We're hoping that if the hatred dies down a little bit, we'd love to be back. I mean, the sponsors, every sponsor I've got says, they'd love to come back. In fact, some people who were not sponsors before want to be sponsors now simply because they feel the injustice of what's happened. But, the stations that broadcast this, it is a business, and they certainly are running scared, and I don't blame them for that. So my hope is that this is temporary. If I need to go to an internet-based show versus the terrestrial radio, I'll do that, because I need to have an avenue to get these. As these songs enter my head, if I don't get them out and record them and have people listen to them, they stay in my head, and that's not a good thing.
Well, I'll tell you what, because give me a call over the weekend, because you mentioned about, trying to pick my mind on what to do. So just give me a shout. Feel free to do that. And we can discuss, you coming on the internet. It's really not that difficult. And if someone as stupid as me can do it, anyone can do it.
Well, I really do appreciate the fact that there have been so many people who've offered to help, and God knows I need the help, because I'm kind of a dinosaur. I'm an old guy. As I said, I wasn't an adult when Kent State happened, but I'm old enough to remember it. So I'm an analog guy in a digital world. So.
Well, let me put it this way.
Well, here's some advice when you're dealing with progressives. These are 2 words: tough shit.
See, you know what? And sometimes that actually is absolutely appropriate. I've always tried to, publicly, kind of help them see the light in a little humorous way with sarcasm. But that I have sadly realized that there are many people who are simply uneducatable, and I waste a lot of time trying anyway.
Well, I'm not too far away from you, because I learned computers when there were still key punch cards. And Mike, you're going to go, what's a key punch card? Because last time I mentioned something, I mentioned a rotary phone.
Is what you mentioned.
And he had no idea what a rotary phone is. Matter of fact, I still have a rotary phone plugged in my house.
Yeah, I've showed my kids the old TV series Get Smart, and of course, there were so many things that were so ridiculously futuristic then that are so antiquated and old now that the kids don't see the humor in it. So.
The cone of silence. Because I even reminded my mom one day that the first house that I remember that I was born in had a party line in it. And my mother had the party line ripped out when she was trying to dial, emergency, because my sister had swallowed something and it was caught in her throat. And she was trying to dial 911. And the party line, some woman kept on talking. So next day, that party line was gone. So, yeah.
Yeah, and again, whole generations have no idea what that even means.
Unless they watched an old Andy Griffith. If they watched one of the old ones.
Yes, that's
Mayberry. Yep. The party
Yes.
line. Mabel. Mabel was the operator. Boy, we're dating ourselves.
Yes, we are.
Well, what else has changed in the world? Mabel was listening to every bit of gossip going on in that little city if you watch that TV show. Well, what's really changed? I mean, you post something on Facebook, the next thing you know, it's, national news, and it's completely screwed up from what you posted.
It sure is.
That it is. It's the old game of telephone. You remember that, Dan. You would whisper a phrase into someone's ear, and that person would go around the circle. Each person would repeat the phrase until it comes back to the original person and see how it was changed from what that original individual said to what the last person repeats. That's what social media is. But Trump uses social media as a weapon, basically. He's out there on Twitter and is able to broadcast what his thoughts are and what his actions will be. And it's really driving mainstream media crazy.
Because he is driving the news and he's going around them. And so he's actually using the tool, that was supposed to be our downfall. He has really perfected the use of it. Perfected might be a stretch, but he has certainly used it very efficiently.
Oh, that he has. And it's funny because our guys in the chat room, I've got some of the smartest listeners in there mentioning about what those TV shows that we watch, such as Get Smart, Andy Griffith, Star Trek, a lot of stuff that was in Star Trek, computers that talk back to you, the communicators, which are similar to the cell phones. It's crazy how the technology has advanced so quickly in the last generation compared to the previous several hundred years. It's amazing.
And we will probably never see that type of surprising advance. My grandmother was born before people could fly, and she lived long enough to see somebody walk on the moon. Now, we will see maybe a change that advances faster than that, but we expect people to flying to other planets and finding life. They couldn't even conceive of these things. So the change in, like, that woman's life, we will never see that kind of change, because even though we might see far superior advances, we're expecting those now. So it's an amazing world that we're living in, but it's a world that my grandparents never could have conceived of.
Yeah, it's amazing. And yet we've got a large portion of the globe that is not technology advanced. And I'm bringing this up for a reason. The, quote, Muslim ban, unquote, which is not a ban at all. It's just a moratorium on immigration from 7 specific countries, 5 of which we have had direct arrests and or attacks of terrorism from these 5 nations. There's no way to vet these people because there's no way to prove they are who they say they are. And yet here we are as a nation of technology thinking that everyone is as advanced as we are.
Yes. In fact, the song I posted on YouTube today is just about that, using the old Paul McCartney and Wings, someone's knocking at the door. Well, terrorists are knocking at our door. So, yes, it's... And, of course, there's one more thing that's taken completely out of context again. Hey, we just need to wait till we can see who these people are before we let them in. How does that become a Muslim ban? Yeah. So.
No, and I have actually read the executive order, and in it, he does not specify any religion whatsoever. He just specifies these are known countries where terrorism threats have been made against our people, our nation, where there have been criminal arrests and convictions from these nations that we know that are sponsoring or complacent with these terrorist groups. And that's all he says basically in it. However, there's a caveat in it that if someone falls into this net that we're casting on this moratorium, we will review them on a case-by-case basis. And he uses that wording in the executive order, case-by-case, review. So this hysteria they have on waiting just a mere 90 days before we can prove this person is who they say they are, where we can then turn around and review the methods in which we're allowing these people into our country. And there's nothing in the Constitution that says we must let them in. So when someone says it's unconstitutional, that's pure baloney. What is wrong with waiting 90 days to keep our nation safe?
But, you have that conversation, and you talk to the reasonable people on the left, generally will end up understanding and agreeing with you if you have that conversation. The problem is, those are not the people you find on Facebook and out having these discussions. The people who are the most unreasonable seem to be the ones who are driving the conversation, and that's part of our problem as well.
It's funny because my husband's nurse was here last week, and the Muslim ban was part of the news item, and she was shaking her head going, "That's terrible, it's terrible, it's terrible." And I said, "What's that?" "The ban on Muslims." And I sat down with her and I explained to her, just like I just did now, exactly what this executive order was, what it contained, and the fact that I actually took the time to read it. And you know what she said to me? She says, "That's not what the news is reporting. No one's saying any of that at all. Why aren't they saying?" Because it's not sexy. It's not selling you on watching and listening. It's not the message they want to project. They don't want to tell you the truth. They want to tell you what they think you should know. And that's the difference.
One of the things on the show when I try to, because again, so I don't just come off as whining about these things that are going on, I try to be constructive and try to give people advice of how do you have the conversation. And it always starts with, okay, you might be right. I could be missing. Tell me what you understand about this. And you'll very often find out that, just like as you just said, what they believe to be true is nowhere near the truth. And that is a pretty decent starting point for a conversation, because I believe there really are very few truly stupid people in the world. I believe most people are educatable, although this last couple of weeks has really put that theory to the test. But I do believe that most people are not that incredibly stupid, and you can reason with them. We just need to find a way to make that light bulb go on. I hope by the time I'm dead, I certainly have proved that right, because right now it seems to be an uphill battle.
It's funny because we were having one of our Tea Party meetings, and we were fighting a local sales tax. And the school board wanted to institute this 1% sales tax. And they're telling everyone, "Oh, it's for the kids, it's for the kids, it's for the kids." And at our meeting, a gentleman shows up, and we knew right away someone sent him there to find out what we were going to be talking about so they can report back to the left on what we were saying. And as he was listening, I asked him, I says, "Do you know where that money is going for that sales tax?" And he said, "Yeah, it's going to the kids for the classrooms." And I says, "Not a penny is going into the classroom. By law, the money they raise on that sales tax can only go to brick and mortar projects. In other words, to building school buildings or to repair school buildings. However, in that sales tax, they are building 2 air-conditioned hot dog stands for a high school that is in the high Tony end of the county, where all the big bucks are coming in from. They're building these 2 concession stands for the football field. Do you have a air-conditioned and hot dog stand in the school your kids go to? Do you really need that? I mean, not a penny is going into the classroom.
It's hard to imagine that people believe that. No, that those are good projects, but the people are so easily deceived. As and that's what we need to work on. It gets back to education. If we teach people how to think instead of tell them what to think, eventually, I do believe that we will see very few liberals in the world in a generation or so.
And from your lips to God's ears. Now, you mentioned that other song at the start of this segment. Where is it? Where is it? I'm looking on my list. The one about terrorism.
Terrorists knocking at our door.
Yeah. I got it queued up. Let me get this one playing here.
I just put that on YouTube this morning.
Okay. Let me bring this up.
Terrorists knocking at the door. Are they bad or good? Do we want to find out? I really think we should. So we're gonna check 'em out before we let 'em in. All the liberals are upset. They insist that there is no threat. They'll put out the welcome Matt, 'cause they know terrorists vote Democrat, yeah. Terrorists knocking at the door, some claim to be refugees. That's why President Trump wants a temporary freeze. When we see that there are no threats, we'll let them in. Extreme vetting, that's what it's called. But angry liberals, they're appalled. Banning people is very bad, even if they fly the ISIS flag, yeah. Terrorists knocking at the door, they want to send us to hell. Terrorists coming to our shores to kill us infidels. We should check them out before we let them in. Donald Trump says, don't give the nod to anyone who declares jihad. We don't want a caliphate, so it makes sense to make them wait, yeah. Terrorists knocking at the door, are they bad or good? Do we want to find out? I really think we should. Terrorists knocking at the door, they want to send us to hell. Terrorists coming to our shores to kill us infidels. Terrorists knocking at the door, claim to be refugees.
Now, I got to laugh here, Dan, because Ron in the chat room goes, if this doesn't have Grammy written all over it, I don't know what else could.
I like this song, Annie.
Hey, thank you. You know, I try to make my point with a little humor and a little sarcasm, and some people would say that I fail at both, but they make me smile, so that's enough.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite Paul McCartney tunes.
And, you know, sometimes these things, like I've got two to record, well, it would have been for tomorrow's show, I'll still post them, but sometimes this, you know, the songs, I don't want to say they write themselves, but like Chicago, that gun-toting town, I wrote that about 3-4 weeks ago. I have probably 3-4 dozen songs that never did hit the air because the news changed. You know, Michelle, using the Beatles' Michelle, and Hillary Clinton, I Need a Pardon. All of these things that are no longer in the news that are written and people may never hear, but it's therapeutic for me to get it out.
And it's also fun. Your YouTube channel, where can people find it?
It's DJA, my initials, DJA Right Mind.
Because I found...
But I usually tell folks, if you type in the right mind in the song, it doesn't work. But if you were, for instance, to write Dan Adamini in YouTube, Dan Adamini, Donald Trump, you'll see about a dozen Donald Trump songs, you know, and then that would bring you right to the channel and encourage everybody to subscribe because, again, the songs that are there, some of them are just wonderful, and some of them were just quickly in and out of the news. But some of them have some lasting effect. I just posted in the Boy Scouts because 3 years ago, when they allowed gay scouts to be part of the pack, I wrote a song for that, and now they're allowing transgenders. So I put that one on YouTube just last week.
Now I've got Kel in the chat room wants to know if you're familiar with Jimmy Z, who also does parody songs.
No, I am not. But now that you've mentioned that, I'm going to try to become aware of Ginny Z.
Yeah, all right. Now, I would mention Trump before with Twitter, but if you notice now in his press conferences, and everyone's going ape over his press conference yesterday, and he's only picking out conservative groups or off mainstream media groups to do the interviews with.
And I'm enjoying that immensely, and because you just to watch the faces, if you're lucky enough to see the faces of the people who are accustomed to being the only ones who have a voice, and I would love to be in the room just taking pictures of those faces as he's calling on all these other people.
It's really funny because CNN is taking one tremendous hit, and they're going nuts. MSNBC is being ignored. NBC is being ignored. But only those that will give favorable coverage to Trump is who he's picking at. And yet the mainstream media thinks they have a right to demand these press conferences, a right to ask these questions. But the press never was in the White House until under Truman, if I remember correctly. It was Truman that started with the press briefings that allowed them in the White House. In the past, you got the news whenever someone in the White House picked up the phone or sent a courier over to you to say, hey, this is happening and this is the information you should print.
For all his other faults, one of the things I do love about Donald Trump is he doesn't seem to care if this is the way it was always done. These people are no more special than the other guys in the room, and we're going to treat them all the same. And again, Trump has his flaws, no doubt, but I got to say, when you get given the choice, I can't imagine what could possibly happen to make me think I made a wrong choice in that vote, given the options we had. But I love the fact that he is shaking things up because they needed to be shaken up.
Yeah. Now, someone just posted in the chat room an article that is up on NBC 24. In Sylvania Township in Ohio, there was graffiti spray painted on the garage door of an Arab family, a SWAT sticker and the word Arab. And guess what? The name of the person that spray painted it is Osama Nazal. That does not sound like a good Italian Catholic to me, does it?
So that gets right back to what a caller said earlier, that sometimes they're actually provoking these things to try to get attention and to try to get hatred where hatred has no place being. They do believe the ends will justify any means that's necessary, and that's part of our problem as well.
Well, then
if you remember, Annie, that church that they burned down was close to you, and of course, what did they spray paint on the sidewall? Trump. Yeah, right. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, virtually 100% of these hate whatevers the Democrats are doing. You call them progressives, you can call them left or right, you call them whatever you want. They're Democrats. It's that simple. I mean, it doesn't matter. They would have no problem in wiping out 95% of humanity if they thought the remaining 5 were basically thought along their lines. And they don't realize that they're just puppets for the fat cat. The Democratic Party's not run by poor people or homeless. It's run also by billionaires and trillionaires.
Well, look at Bernie Sanders with his new luxurious home up on the river on a private island. Oh, wow. And the man never worked a legitimate job in his entire life. It's crazy, Dan.
Yeah, it really is. And actually, as we've been listening at, again, the way my mind works, I'm one of those ADD kids. But the thought, right now, I'm writing in my head about the press corps, the people who, talk to me. I picture them kind of like Horseshack on Welcome Back, Kotter, like, pick me, pick me.
ooh, pick me, yes. Now, that brings me up to another song that I wanted to do. Your song that you just recently released, Goon Thugs.
Yes, actually, this was redone for after the election because I initially wrote it. I was down in Chicago for when the UIC speech event for Trump was canceled. I initially wrote it there. So on YouTube, there's 2 versions. This is the newer version that after the Trump election, goons, thugs, and liberal scum using Cher's. I like Cher's because she was going to a lot of Hillary events.
All right. Well, Dan, if anyone wants to reach out to you, where can they find you until you get your show back up on the air?
The website is intherightmind.net, and I do have the Facebook page for In the Right Mind up and running, although, again, it was hacked last night, but Facebook did take care of it. So maybe I would just encourage everybody to go to the website, intherightmind.net, or find me on YouTube and just search Dan Adamini, In the Right Mind, and that'll bring you to the whole catalog.
Well, Dan, I want to thank you for joining us.
I'm going to find him. I want to find Dan on Facebook. Let the Democrats know we're friends. That'll make them happy.
Just be prepared for the avalanche that follows that, though.
Dan, whatever happened to you, trust me, it hails in comparison to me. Believe me.
Well, I look forward to chatting with you then.
Bring them on. Bring them on.
Well,
First
Dan,
shot of gunfire, they run faster than Edwin Moses.
Dan, I want to thank you for joining us, and you're welcome back anytime. You've got my number, and let's talk over the weekend.
Hey, yes, and again, thanks for the opportunity, and thanks to all the folks who are listening, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and then you'll get all the new ones, because there's 2 that'll be out this weekend. All
right, and this is your song. What the song? Oh, yeah, Gung Ho Thugs.
Goons, Thugs.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Here we go. Let's get
all
this
right,
up here.
take care.
When Donald Trump won in 2016, Democrats were mad at what they had seen. They would not admit defeat. So they formed mobs, and gangs of angry liberals took to the streets. Goons, thugs, liberal scum, shouting, blocking traffic and burning flags. Punks, bums, Democrat scum. They spend their lives spreading violence and hate with an IQ of 8. They thought America lost its head, 'cause dark blue states were turning red as angry liberals prepared for war. Most of these idiots didn't even know what they were fighting for. Goons, thugs, liberal scum, shouting, blocking traffic and burning flags. Punks, bums, Democrat scum. They spend their lives spreading violence and hate with an IQ of 8. They say fighting hate and racism is why they do what they do. But if you support Trump, it's okay if they hate you. It's okay if they hate you. Violence and hate is the message they spread. If you disagree with them, they wish you were dead. They clearly don't know wrong from right. They're just a bunch of bullies. They do as they're told 'cause they're not that bright. Goons, thugs, liberal scum, shouting, blocking traffic and burning flags. Punks, bums, Democrat scum. They spend their lives spreading violence and hate with an IQ of 8. Goons, thugs, liberal scum, shouting, blocking traffic and burning flags.
All right, and we're back. You're here listening to Southern Sense here on Blog Talk Radio, American Patriot Radio, SHR Media, High Plains Daily News, Kinetic Hi-Fi, The Fix FM out of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm your hostess with the mostest, the radio chick Annie, along with my debonair and erudite co-host Curtis C.S. Bennett of the original radicals.com. Curtis, what a great first guest. We've got the second one already up in queue. Are we ready? We ready for this?
Yeah.
I mean, can he?
I'm ready.
Go ahead.
I'm ready.
All right. I want to welcome onto the show the host of the, oh, good Lord, the Ryno Report. Jesus. The Ryno Report, if I can get myself right. I can't even speak today. I don't even know what the heck I'm doing on the radio today. Let's welcome aboard Ryno.
Well, I think at least I know how to say Andamini. I guess I got that right.
All right, let's try this one more time. Ryno DeCicco. Good afternoon, Ryan.
Hey, guys. How are you? How's it going? Thank you for having me on.
As you can tell, I am not in my right mind today, so...
It's a long week. I hear you. We just got off air. It's been a long, long week. There haven't been many short weeks lately, I'll tell you that, right?
No, it's been like we're being assaulted one right after another. I thought it was a hectic news cycle going into the election, but since the inauguration, it has been nonstop, a complete machine gun rat-a-tat-tat that's been attacking us.
Oh, yeah, we actually spoke about that on today's show. It was like we all thought we'd get this little break, maybe because you get that break after the primaries, you get that primary hangover, and then you get the conventions, and then you get the general election. You go, okay, the election's over, no worries, we'll take a breath of fresh air, we'll come up for some air, and then it was like, boom, you had Jill Stein, who is actually still going at it. We heard about that today. And, of course, there's Russian stuff. It has been absolutely nuts. I mean, I'm sure you guys can agree.
Well, actually, what is the latest on Jill Stein? This is something I haven't caught because I've been a little bit out of the loop the last couple of days. Been taking care of my husband's health, so I haven't been in front of the news 24/7 like I have usually. What's going on with her?
Sure, Jill Stein, she must have been the hardest person to break up with, like in high school, because she just doesn't go away. Now she's saying she wants a federal judge to declare the recount process in Pennsylvania unconstitutional. Now, I have a dream. I have a dream that one day these politicians who call things unconstitutional will actually read the Constitution first, because they have no idea what they're talking about. But it's completely insane. Here's somebody who got essentially 500,000 more votes than I did, and she's calling for all these recounts, unconstitutional recounts. I mean, she, if anything else, is a danger to our democracy.
And you must be right. I like the analogy. She's the hardest person to break up with in high school. She's the stalker.
She doesn't go away. She doesn't go away. It's crazy. It's like every 5 minutes, Jill Stein's in the news. No one knew who she was until 6 months ago, and now we can't get her name out of the papers.
She gets more publicity than Bernie Sanders does, and that must be driving him crazy.
Oh, it's gotta be. He's gotta be really feeling up there in Burlington, Vermont. When his wife isn't getting colleges shut down for bad real estate deals. He's also running for president. If you guys didn't know, crazy.
It is funny the rat-a-tat-tat we've been having with the news cycle. Trump made a whole big bunch of noise yesterday in what a lot of people are saying was really a brilliant press conference. Even though he did ramble on at times, he handled it where it's like, I'm not going to pander to mainstream media anymore. You guys aren't telling the truth. And when you do tell what you consider the truth, you distort it to make it sound completely different. So I'm just going to go to someone that's going to give me, favorable coverage. So whether or not it's Fox News or anyone else, the Christian Broadcasting Network, whatever, I'm going to go to people that are going to print what I would like to see in the news. And they're going nuts.
Sure. Oh, yeah, you know what? I think what happened was two things. I think mainstream media, when they heard Donald Trump was going to do this press conference on his own, they could smell blood in the water. They thought that the waters were chummed for them. And then he came in like a shark during Shark Week, and he pounced on them so badly that they were taken back by it. They were taken back. He's not taking this anymore. See, he's a New Yorker, and a lot of people don't understand that, all the faults we have here in New York, and I am a New Yorker, I'm an admitted New Yorker, that we just don't get punched and go away. It doesn't happen. And Donald Trump, he is the epitome of that. They thought they were going to get to him. They were going to take swipes at him. They were going to take turns on him. And he completely changed the narrative and the tone of what was going on. And not to mention, this was also a very, very Reagan-esque type move. Because what happened was, back in 1980, after Reagan beats Carter, Reagan gets put in a cocoon, which most of these presidents do. They win the election, they get put in a cocoon, they have to form their whole government, they go away. Reagan took his message to the people initially, much like Donald Trump did, And then he has to get separated from the people, and this was getting back to the people. And that's what mainstream media hates more than anything.
Yeah, it's funny because he's up here in Charleston. He was at the Boeing plant, and he did a really nice speech, rah, rah, rah for non-union, which is driving all the unions crazy. Yeah, matter of fact, they just recently had a vote at the Boeing plant to bar the union from coming back in again. And there was 75% of the workers said no to the union. So
wow.
They are licking their wounds right now, trying to figure out, because they can't come back and start to rally for another vote for one solid year. So right now they're licking their wounds and going, oh, well, maybe South Carolina is still going to be a right-to-work state, and this isn't good for us. So they're going.
No, I mean, you're right.
And then tomorrow he's heading to Melbourne Airport to do a massive public rally. Have you ever heard of a president doing that? Oh, wait a minute. Obama campaigning.
Yeah, well, that was his favorite part of the job. When President Obama wasn't playing golf, he was campaigning. Those were the two. Everyone thinks the job of being president is so easy because they watched what Obama did for 8 years. But, getting back to the union for a second, I've been in unions, in and out of unions. I've owned union companies. I've owned non-union companies. I've worked for both. And I can tell you, this was the first election where the workers, the unionized workers, were not listening to their business agents. Their business agents were saying, you have to vote for Hillary, you have to vote for Hillary. They send these guys out with sign trucks and everything else, all to all the big events with Vote Hillary signs on them. Meanwhile, the guy driving the truck is saying, I'm still voting for Trump. Because they've been voting themselves out of jobs for so long, they just didn't listen to the local presidents and the DAs anymore. And that's a new thing. See, Donald Trump is systematically defunding the Democrat Party. He's got Betsy DeVos in as the education secretary. She is going to be a nightmare for the educators' unions, which should be illegal to begin with because they have the best interest of the teacher in mind and not the student. That's a whole other story. But he's going to defund all their big outlets. The UAW is probably going to endorse Trump. You're going to see some of these other unions, these trade workers unions, endorse Trump. And I think we're starting to see that, and the Democrats are running scared. And I'd be pretty scared, too, if my fringe party was about to run out of money.
What's the weird part is I remember where federal government jobs, were not unionized. And then suddenly the Taylor Act goes out the window, and now federal workers are unionized. But wait a minute. The very federal workers that are unionized are the same ones that are negotiating the contract for the workers. Oh, wait a minute. It's the government negotiating their own contract. Do you think...
Right. It's a total conflict of interest, total conflict, especially on the government side. It happens in every municipality here in New York. You have the people who run the unions, get a little stipend from the union, but then they get a paycheck from the government, so they're a union rep, and they're also an employee, and they're also on the take. It's a nightmare. You should never, ever, ever have unions in municipalities, counties, states, towns, villages, the federal government. You should never, ever have it. There's such a conflict there. But you know what? As long as they have influence, they'll never get rid of it. Plus, unions are exempt from the antitrust laws. The same laws that they fought against, back in 1910 and 1920, they don't have to adhere to. The whole thing is a racket. It's a racket.
Yeah, and then when we have proven instances of union workers on government time campaigning for a candidate, which is expressly against the law.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it could be worse. I guess it could be like the IRS looking at porn on their computers while they're at work, right? I mean, I guess it's completely out of control what they're doing. And when Donald Trump had said, and then for me, just to be clear, for me it's still weird to say President Trump. It's like I haven't woken up yet. Mm-hmm. And for him to say that he's not going to use the drain the swamp stuff anymore, he's got to get back to it. That was his bread and butter. That was where the money was. And I think he's starting to get back to that. And I think he's going to start using more vernacular like he used in the campaign. Because yesterday at the press conference, we saw candidate Trump. We didn't see President Trump. President Trump was president for a month. He got beaten up every which way from Tuesday. He's back to being candidate Trump again. And, it's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah. Now, you were saying that he should be getting back on the drain the swamp statement. But he just recently enlisted his friend, Stefan Feinberg, who's the co-founder of a private equity giant called, Cerberus Capital Management. And he's using him to go after the intelligence agencies and find out where the leaks are, and then to, the word just went right out of my mouth, not format, rebuild them. Looking for who is in there doing all these massive leaks, find out what the problems are, solve the problems, and then restructure. That's it, the word I was looking for. Restructure these various intelligence agencies. Because now you've got the rumors out there that the CIA and NSA are not giving Trump a full briefing. They're holding back certain facts from him. All this stuff is leaking out, but it's not coming from Trump loyalists. It's coming from those people that are holdovers from the Obama administration.
Right. I mean, you have the Wall Street Journal did report that a couple of days ago, that they're not giving him the information. They can't trust him. Who knows what to believe anymore? My theory is, as long as you see it on TV or you read it in the papers, it's probably not true. But, I mean, how many people could there be who have access to this type of information, especially listening into the phone calls, or they have the transcripts from phone calls between the president and other world leaders? There's got to be like 7 people. I don't think there's 10,000 people that have access to that kind of information. This could be done very, very simply. Either one of you fesses up or you're all gone. End of story. And we'll get 7 new people. I mean, but, I think you're right, though. You did mention the Obama holdovers, and that is a problem. You had a president for 8 years. People are very loyal to him. The average time spent in federal work is not 8 years, so most of them have been there throughout the entire Obama presidency. And, it's going to take time. It's going to take 4, perhaps even 6 more years before he has everybody in place as what he wants them to be.
Yeah, and the funny thing is... Oh, go ahead, Curtis.
Right. I know this left is making a lot of noise right now, but we have a midterm coming up in 2018. If we reclaim enough seats to further weaken the Democrat Party, how relevant will it be after that point?
Well, I think that the Democrat Party is on the verge of relativity as we speak. I mean, they're not very relative now. They don't have much impact anymore. They keep acting like they're winning. I haven't seen a Democrat win anything in 4 years. If you guys have, please let me know. They just don't win anything anymore. But they keep acting like they're winning. And I think that the Republicans in 2018 could be looking at a supermajority. It's very, very possible. I mean, not to mention, we already have 32 governors. So if you wanted to do anything, there's always the convention of the states option. They have an extreme amount of power right now that I feel like even Speaker Ryan, is not fully harnessing and doesn't grasp the fact that he can really fundamentally change the direction of our country.
I asked this of our previous guest, and I'm going to ask it of you also. Matter of fact, I have a friend of mine just texted me and asked me to ask this question of you anyway. President Obama, when he left the White House, he moved in just a couple of blocks away. And he built a wall. Amazing. He built a wall. Yeah. But everyone's saying that he's got a shadow. He's actually the puppet master of a shadow government. And this is a problem, I think, where a lot of the leaks are coming from. If he's in communication with these other members that are still in the federal government, that are his appointees, is he running a shadow government? Is he doing everything possible to undermine Trump?
Oh, I mean, that's a great question, and I wish one of us knew the answer to it. I think if that is the case, doesn't that sound a bit treasonous to you? It sounds a little treasonous to me. But, speaking of wall, just off topic here, just for a second, you said he's building a wall around that 8,000 square foot mansion he has. Hillary Clinton built a wall around her house in Chappaqua. And in fact, she built a 10-foot wall, which is 2 feet beyond the code. But walls don't work. Even if they build them around the convention center in Philadelphia, they don't work. They're only to keep out Bernie supporters. But yet, if he is running a shadow government, that to me is a high crime. If you're trying to actively undermine the elected government in this country, that is a high crime.
And it'd be amazing to see whether or not Trump goes and pursues that. When we're talking about treasonous acts, there was something that no one is really reporting on. Here's the article. This was in the World Net Daily. There is the Capitol Police in Washington, D.C. have a massive investigation going on about whether or not classified and sensitive information has been hacked by former IT staffers, the information technology staffers employed by Democrats in Congress. And they're looking at specifically 5 employees, 3 of which are brothers, Ebed, Imran, and Jamil Awan. Gee, those don't sound like Italian Roman Catholic names to me. And these 3 brothers have direct connections to CARE and the Muslim Brotherhood. They are Muslims from Pakistan, and they were they believed to be compromising the networks of Democrats in the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence and the House Committee on Foreign Affairs. Shock, shock, shock. And one of the people they worked for was Andre Carson. And who is Andre Carson? He's a Democrat from Indiana. And, oh, yes, he happens to be Muslim, too.
Yeah, there just seems to be this large invasion of Muslims. We saw this very early on in the Obama presidency. Was, here and there, you take a couple of Muslims and you say, look, they're all really good people, and we can put them in good forms. We can put them in high areas of government, and they're not all bad. But then it becomes one after another, and you start to wonder, well, aren't there any other religious backgrounds that happen to be good people too that you could put into government? And we saw this. I mean, this has been going on for years. I don't know all their names. I guess WorldNet does. I don't have to know all their names. There's quite a few of them. And Obama has always been sympathetic to the Muslim Brotherhood. We saw that with Egypt,
Yeah, we had Lindsey Graham and John McCain go to Egypt and lecture the president of Egypt that he must let the Muslim Brotherhood out of jail and back into government. Gee, and then they had the audacity to sit down in our house, the White House, and break bread with members of the Muslim Brotherhood with Obama in attendance. So, it's... Yeah,
I think it's sort of... It's not funny, but it's amusing that Lindsey Graham and John McCain always seem to be on the wrong side of common sense, don't they?
Well, you would have loved the day I stood nose to nose with him, toe to toe, and made him back down on 2 out of 3 issues. He was at a fundraiser at a local bar restaurant, and when we showed up, once he showed up, the bar was closed. Now, you holding a fundraiser in a bar, and you tell the bar you can't serve alcoholic beverages. Well, the drunker you get us, the more our wallet's going to open. You cut off the booze, we cut your funds off. That's how smart Lindsey Graham is, or as I call him, lazy Grahamnesty.
Whenever I see him, I always picture him, and maybe this is just me living on Long Island, but I always picture him driving around a Mr. Softy truck with that little funny hat on. That's just the way he looks to me. Like, you just can't take this guy seriously. He talks out of both sides of his mouth so much. I don't know how his teeth don't hurt. It is terrible when you listen to him.
And it is, unfortunately, and happens to be my senator. And we've been trying to unseat him, but unfortunately here in South Carolina, we have the open primary. So people can cross over, and that is how he keeps on getting, nominated, because he gets these Democrats to cross over and vote in our primary. We've got a caller in on the line here, Ryan. Let me bring her on. She's a friend of the show. She's a friend of a lot of shows here. Sweet Sue from New Mexico. How are you today, Sue?
Hi, I'm doing fine. I was just wondering if you heard And the recordings now are out on YouTube and hitting, social media, that Lindsey Graham and Senator John McCain got punked by 2 Russian pranksters. I listened to McCain's yesterday, and he was giving out some questionable, sensitive information, and he was talking about, his letter to Trump and what should be happening and everything as far as the Ukraine. These Russian pranksters were representing themselves as someone from the Ukraine government. Have you heard these tapes?
Yes, Sweet Sue, I love that name, by the way. I have not heard those tapes, but as soon as we are done with this phone call, that is the very first thing I'm going to do. But it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me that John McCain was sarcastic of information whenever he thinks he can get somebody's ear. He's... I give him credit for everything he has done. I don't want to besmirch the guy. He's an American hero. I do believe that. But at the same time, he has, like I said before, he has just been on the wrong side of common sense ever since Donald Trump rode down that escalator. I don't know what happened, but during that time, he has been on the wrong side of common sense. And I haven't heard those, but it does not surprise me at all.
Well, when you search it in YouTube, and anyone listening, just put in Senator John McCain pranked by Russian pranksters, and it will come up. And I haven't looked at the Lindsey Graham one, but I would imagine that's what you'd have to put in also. Also, these 2 guys pranked Maxine Waters also. So anyway, really? I'll go back on mute. But they're quite funny when when you think about senators, not even on checking if it's a secure line, who actually is calling them. A little bit scary. Time for term limits. Okay, I'll go back on mute. Thanks.
Thanks, Sue.
Thank you, Sue. That's pretty funny, But term limits is where she's right. She's 100% right. That is where Donald Trump needs to start. He didn't want to start there because it ruffles feathers and people don't want to help him out working on other parts of his agenda. But that's where it needs to start. Almost every single problem we have in this country can be attributed to term limits. It is the one root of all evil. But I did think it was funny that Maxine Waters broke some news a couple of days ago, right? That Putin invaded Korea. That was interesting.
Oh, good Lord, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, my goodness. Oh, God, I'm getting old. I'm starting to get old. When I had a question right on the tip of my mind, it just goes out the window. Holy cow. Go ahead, Curtis, because I know you have a question.
Well, I was just going to say that for Sweet Sue, I did see what she was talking about, McCain, but I saw it on Twitter. I have not confirmed if it was true or not, but, you can never know with these things, but I'm not surprised, by it, Whenever the left says something about, the Republicans have disagreed with Trump, it's usually McCain and Lindsey Graham, So.
Oh,
they've got to be the 2 easiest people to dupe in the entire Senate. They have to be. They will literally bite into anything. Those are the kind of guys that will see like a dog dropping on the ground and not believe it's a dog dropping, go down and taste it. That's just the kind of guys they are. And it doesn't surprise me. I wonder if it was Ashton Kutcher. Maybe he was punking them. Maybe he was punching them from the Grammys or from the SAG Awards or whatever award they had yesterday or whatever it was.
But, you got to remember, Lindsey Graham is the one that walked across the Senate floor to John Kerry and said, tell me what you need to help get whatever it was passed. It was very obvious. He get caught on tape, on camera, saying this to John Kerry. The man is not a Republican. I'm sorry. He may be signed up under the Republican Party. There's not a Republican bone in his body, period.
No, the best thing he can do is change registration. That'd be the best thing he could do, was change the registration, let your true colors shine, let the freak flag fly.
Yeah, but didn't he threaten to do that when he did not get the nomination for the presidency? Didn't he say if it was Trump, he was going to switch parties? And lo and behold, he's still
threatened. I wish he'd promise.
Yeah, another broken promise. Jeez, Lindsay, can't keep even that one promise. But, I'm wondering now.
That's why you don't trust a guy named Lindsay.
But I'm wondering now, Mike Flynn lost his job with the National Security Agency because of an alleged phone call, alleged conversation between himself and the Russian ambassador. But you think about this, there's no national secrets that Mike Flynn gave away. Nothing he said was wrong. They said that he didn't really break any rules. What he did was he broke Donald Trump's trust, and there were other instances where he broke the trust. It was just one more straw that finally broke the camel's back. But here you have two senators that are on the National Security Council talking to an international individual, a foreign individual, no way to identify. The question is what did they give away?
Yeah. I mean, who knows? I mean, these pranksters, They could have been calling from Canton, Ohio, for all we know, just with a nice Russian accent. They watch a lot of hockey. But Michael Flynn, this is the thing. Here's the thing: there is this long-standing, ingrained piece of Americana that says, as Americans, anything Russian is bad. So whenever they can start to join ideas like that. Well, it has to do with the Russian, that's bad. Russians are bad, right? And they try to make that play to our psyche, where we make these connections. And listen, what Michael Flynn did was not right. He should have been more forthright with the vice president, with the president. But by all accounts, he told the truth to the White House attorney, and everything came out in the wash there, and Donald Trump just said, listen, if I can't fully trust you, then you just can't be a part of this administration, which I think was a very strong move by a very new president. But yeah, the fact that McCain or Graham were willing to cough up state secrets, if that's what actually happened, that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, these two are they're so gullible.
Well, he's got a few more years in office before we can run someone else against him. There's so many people here that are pissed off with him, but yet he keeps on dipping into his Democratic supporters. He actually had a fundraiser with tons of Democrats in attendance. So really, Lindsey Graham, get out. I don't even know why the Republican Party has not expelled him yet. I mean, I
don't know. I mean,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know either. He just seems to be the quintessential, and they keep using this term, establishment Republican. And you're right, he's not Republican. I mean, he's anything but a Republican. He's probably bordering somewhere between liberal and insane. It's somewhere on that border. But yeah, I mean, if he's holding fundraisers with Democrats, but that's a local party has to get involved too and say, we want to have a closed primary or something along those lines. Like it's more than just on the federal level. It has to happen on the local grassroots level too to really get him out if that's what the goal is.
Yeah, well, we've tried several times to close the primaries here, and there has been a movement. 2 years ago it was pretty strong, and now after this election, I haven't seen much movement on it. But we're going to try it again. It has to do with funding, and it has to be changed through the state legislature. It's not something that the party itself can do. There's certain rules that have to be in place as where the funding comes from, whether it's state funding or it's local, fundraisers. And that's where the difficulty lies here in South Carolina. It gets a little complicated, but I was involved in trying to draft people to petition for the primaries to be closed with our elected officials. We'll see if we can gain momentum, because now we've got a new governor. He seems to be far more conservative than Nikki Haley was. And he hasn't stepped on anything yet. Right. So we'll see what happens. There's a possibility.
Let me ask you this. Are people in South Carolina, just for my own edification, are they happy that Nikki Haley is not the governor anymore?
There's a large contingency that is very happy that she's not there. Not everything she did was conservative. Not everything she did was things that those of us in the Tea Party movement are pleased with. So, yeah, there's a lot of people who are glad that she's no longer there.
Yeah, she reminds me sort of a in the shadow of Lindsey Graham type of Republican. She endorsed Marco Rubio, and then she endorsed Ted Cruz. She would have endorsed Minnie Mouse had she been running also. And anything she could do to not endorse Donald Trump. And I thought that was a big mistake, and it wound up not being a mistake. She got a nice promotion out of it, didn't she? She's the ambassador to the UN now. That's pretty good.
Well, that was a favor to Henry McMaster, our new governor, because McMaster was one of the first politicians here in South Carolina that actually stepped forward and endorsed Donald Trump. So, it was a payback, really.
Yeah, I could see that. And I do think that, some people look for where the turning point was in the primary, and I always point to South Carolina. I always point there because that was the Bush stronghold. And when he literally wiped the sidewalk with Jeb Bush, I thought that was the turning point, and here is our next candidate.
Now, I'm just wondering, did Roger Stone's book actually have any influence in Jeb Bush stepping away? His book, Jeb.
I don't know. That's a good question. It's a good question. I don't know. I think the Bush family had something to do with that. I think they said, okay, enough's enough. You tried. That's he raised, $130 million? He had more money than all the rest of the candidates combined. And he paid something like $50 million, per delegate or something ridiculous like that. I think it was just, you tried. Thanks a lot, son.
Well, we're down to our last 7.5 minutes here. Curtis, I heard you have another question. Go ahead, sweetie.
Yeah, I was just wondering if y'all heard anything about this coming from the Democrat side. As we know, they have very few rising rock stars on their side. So, as often is the case with liberals, they go back to a brand name from the past. And what I'm hearing now, they're turning to one of Bobby Kennedy's sons to run for the presidency in 2020. Have you heard that?
Interesting. I have not heard that. That would not surprise me. What I have heard, of course, being here in New York and too close to Chappaqua, is we have heard that Hillary probably will be running for mayor of New York City. I always thought that coming up for the Democrats would be Cory Booker. I've heard Al Franken's name kicked around a little bit. But that wouldn't surprise me. You're right. They seem to retread the same way Republicans do when we don't have any traction. As we finally, let's be honest, John McCain 2008 was who can we go to? There was nobody else. So that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, it's interesting because we also heard with Mitt Romney possibly running for the Senate out of Utah. This guy's all over the map. I
guess he didn't waste enough money funding Egg McMuffin. He's gonna run for Senate now.
Well, Ryan, where can people find you and listen to your show, which is the Ryno Report, spelt with a Y, not an I?
Yeah, the Ryno Report. Yep, RYNO with a good kind of rhino, I always say. You can go to RynoReport.com, RYNOReport.com, or you can listen to us live. We're on at 2 p.m. Eastern on crntalk.com. That's the best way to tell you without rattling off a bunch of call letters. crntalk.com, and that's on Channel 1. And we post the show on a podcast, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Podbean, iHeartRadio, all over the place. And we've only been around for a little less than 2 years, and we went from 5 listeners the first episode, which I don't recommend you listen to now we hit about 11 million homes a week. So we've taken off, and I was very unexpected, but I'm very humbled by it. And we're on at the exact same time as Rush Limbaugh. Lucky us. But people are turning the channel. They're turning Rush off, and they're turning us on. And it's a very humbling experience, but I enjoy doing it very much, and I enjoy this opportunity too.
Well, I got to tell you, I am sitting at TopTalkRadio.com at number 16 out of the top 100. I'm 2 rows below Rush Limbaugh, my little smiling face.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Wow, look at you. Very good.
And I've had no broadcasting training. So, just a small business owner and former cop. Us cops got to stick together.
Yeah, we do. We make the best types of hosts, just in my, of course, biased opinion, because we have that connection. We don't have to go to school to learn broadcasting, or learn how to breathe into a microphone, or learn how to, turn a button this way or that way. We just talk from the heart, and people hear that, they respond to it, and it's more of an honor than it is anything else, to do what we do.
Well, it is a pleasure having you on the show, Ryan, and I welcome you back anytime. Just have your guy call my guy. Oh, wait a minute, that's just having you call me.
That's about how that works, right? Thank you so much, Annie and Curtis. You guys are great. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome.
And guys, check out.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend. All right. Go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead.
No. I was going to have a great, President Trump Day on Monday.
We will. Yeah, Monday is President's Day. And thank you, Ryan. Check out the RyanReport.com. And he's also on CRNTalk.com. We've got great guests coming up for the rest of this month. Matter of fact, we have a former member of Congress, former military. Would love to see him run for president one day. He's coming up at the end of the month. I'm just going to give you that hint. And people will be impressed when you see him up on our schedule. We're also going to have Bill Pickle in the Pickle Barrel joining us. Also having Pastor Jackson and your buddy Mike Hill coming up in the upcoming shows. So we'll be back here on Tuesday, same bat time, same bat station. So everyone out there, be safe over the weekend. It is President's Day on Monday. So until then, I say good night and God bless. Here is John Cain, American Heart.
I'm American made. I got American parts. I got American faith in America's heart. They say our reputation needs a new coat of paint and a delicate melody. But I say I like the bruises, 'cause the melody don't mean a thing if we don't have the strength to sing. And I won't be made to ever feel ashamed that I'm American made. I got American parts. I got American faith in America's heart. Go on, raise the flag. I got stars in my eyes. I'm in love with her, and I won't apologize. That we need changing as if all the founding fathers seem to get it wrong. Oh, but I say that I still believe in the greatest innovator, liberator, cultivator, freedom knows. So I suggest you take a look inside. Man, I thank you. can't face in America's heart. Go on, raise the flag. I got stars in my eyes. I'm in love with her, and I won't apologize. I'm in love with her, and I won't apologize.